Hi all, and welcome back to this series on learning the repertoire with me and just kind of observing practice. If you haven't seen the verse video of this, I recommend going through that. Otherwise, probably a lot of what's going on isn't going to make sense. So without further ado, I'm going to remind you to check the Google Doc so that you can actually find the sheet music for this as well as see the repertoire list of what I'm working on. Still holding to about a measure a day here on each piece. And yeah, let's get started with the Liszt Piano Sonata in B minor. Now I'm going to start at the back of this piece for a couple of reasons. I've actually read through the first several pages a million times, and I've already written some notes and fingering and pedaling and all that. So I'm not going to redo all that. But I also like to learn long pieces backwards sometimes, just because it's like so overwhelming to see what's in front of you. You feel like I'm already at the end. It's honestly, there's no real advantage. It's more of a psychological trick. But having said that, measure 755 or 4, it looks like. I'm just going to do the whole chain of last chords. So we've got A minor, F major, B major, second version, 3 of those in a row, and a last B. I'm going to end with a third finger on the last B, again for that control issue. Probably 5, 4, 2, 1 on all these chords actually, except the B major, 5, 3, 2, 1. Chords are like pretty straightforward when they're this many notes, so there's hardly anything to figure out. I would do 1, 2, 5 for the right hand, 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 4. Then of course there's nothing at the last note, so there it is. It's worth noting that you get the pianissimo on the B major, but not on the first two. I actually have 2 editions of this, so I'm just going to cross-reference to make sure that's consistent. Yeah, it is. In fact, my other edition, which is the Schirmer, suggests to start pianissimo, and it has actually a crescendo on the F major, as if it were growing. Of course, that's not actually possible, but I think sometimes imagining it can change how we play it. Then I'm going to put the una corda pedal down. Yeah, I like that a lot. It gives this nice color change. So I'm going to mark. I like to mark in special pedal moments. I probably wouldn't forget it, especially since I just made it up and thought of it, but still good to know. You know, when you're learning a piece, if you make a discovery, you don't want to waste that information on a later practice session by having you repeat it. So there we go. I mean, pretty simple, really. Can't really make decisions on tempo or voicing yet without context of building up to it. Probably the top. I want sort of a bell shimmery color, which I'm writing in the score. And by color, I mean like quality of sound. Something that's not just a nice chord, but kind of lets that top ring out. Una corda. And then the most gentle B you can imagine. Another trick there, actually. When you have a single note and you want it really quiet, this, I guess it works on a chord too, or an octave or whatever, put it halfway down. So physically, literally put the key a third or halfway down and play from there. You won't get volume until you break that halfway point. So if you're already a little bit down, it takes a lot of the gravity out of it, and that extra half or third of an inch or whatever it is saves you a lot of dynamic control and saves you a lot of power that you don't want. So I'm going to put that halfway down. Also, I'd have to decide how long to hold that pedal. If you want to let it roll out, or just sort of... my personal feeling is the chord is the slur off. So it should sort of like blend all into one. All right. So, next we have Braum's Handel variations. So, way too many variations, so I'm just gonna probably do about 4 at a time. We've got the theme. And then it keeps going. I'll probably do those 2 measures. So we got 4-2-1 to start for the shape of the chord. So that was without pedal. I wouldn't want to go 5-3 because then you can't connect the bass note if you're following along. So we got 4, 5, 4, and then maybe 2-1, and that gives you 3-1 to 3-2. That way we can be as legato as possible without pedal. Then of course you can add it later, but it's much better to have as much of that work be in the hand as you can get. Yeah, that's basically the best choice. And I don't always need both voices to connect, like the F, A to B flat octave. You could just connect the bottom and do 2-1, 5-1. So connect 2 to 5, and then the thumb moves. As long as that you hear the connection of the bass, that's okay too. If it's comfortable though, I say aim for both. However, notice like the pickup to the 3rd measure is an 8th note, and I want a real rhythmic sense of like 2 here being the arrival. So on that one, I'm going to change fingering to 2-1 because the spacing of the thumb there actually gives a little bit more rhythmic placement. So I'm writing a little vertical line in between the A and the B flat to sense like a break there, but I write a slur on the bottom to say I want that connected. So no pedal, left hand alone. See how the second pair of those was more rhythmic. This trill, it's too hard to change finger if you watch the first video. So I actually would probably just do 2-3. It's too quick too. There's not time to like change and then go into the tail. So just 2-3. All that's just B flat up to E flat, 1 position, 1, 2, 3, 4. Pretty simple. Absolutely no reason that I see to do any fancy or tricky fingering there. Now the other thing is the repeated notes in the left-hand chord cannot be re-articulated without lifting. So I like to build lifts into the choreography. In other words, like I would play an 8th note of the chord and lift for an 8th note with the thumb while holding the bottom half. So it's like play the chord, lift, play the next chord. That way you're connecting at least 2 of the 3 notes. It's like this. And then a quarter note. So whatever the note is, in this case a quarter, you just double the speed and let go. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like 1 and 2. And that gets you the smoothest sounding chord. Rather than lifting the entire hand just to accommodate 1 finger, it's better to connect what you can and lift only that finger within the rhythmic design of the piece. I mark this by writing a little X to say that voice lifts up, but there's a million ways to notate that. And then I would write a slur on the bottom part just to remind myself that that can easily be held. So then there I'd probably lift it again with the turn. Da, da, da. So there's a choreography between the hands. And then same thing, repeated B flat is an 8th note, so in this case you hold it for a 16th and lift it for a 16th. And similar. They're like, the bass note F has to be changed, but then both can be connected. Alright, there's the theme. Now let's go variation 1. I think it's pretty simple. Pinky for all the bass notes. And then when you change 4 on G to put 5 on the lower lower part. Ooh, this is tricky because my edition suggests 5-4-5. The problem with that is then you can't actually connect to C after it. So I would almost suggest like 3-4 at the end. It does make the chord a little bit harder. Yeah, but I think it's better to slur over to the C than to have 5-5. So often in fingering, there's this predicament of one choice has a benefit and a not so good option, a pro and a con, and the other choice has a different pro and a con. So it's like you just have to pick which problem you're willing to live with more. In other words, 1-2-5 feels more comfortable for the chord, so that's the pro. But the con is you can't slur up to C. The other way around is 1-2-4 feels less good in the chord, but it feels way better to slur up to C than having to do that in the pedal and stiffening up. So for me, choosing the fingering that leads to 4 is a much better option. Of course, each slur starts with 5, so that necessitates you go 5, 3, 4 on every one of these groups. 5, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 4, 2, 5, 4, 2, 5, 3, 4. Yeah, and then just keep it going. I truly am doing just one measure though, so. And then it's unclear actually. I'm guessing that the bottom part of the chord would be staccato. It is marked an 8th note, but I don't know if he wants this where that's held. Or if he wants like the chord to be part of like almost that accompaniment. Like a little faster, that seems too dry. I can't play it yet, but let's see. That feels a little too long though, so I'm just gonna write articulation, ? If I can't make a decision right off the spot, I save it for later. I learn the whole variation and practice it for a while, see how it feels, and then I move on and figure it out. My guess would be it's better to let go, especially if you're gonna move through it. If you take a slower tempo though, it might be nice. Just good balance. Nobody really plays it that fast though. So anyway, variation 2. Let's see, chromatic. There's a lot going on here. Okay, so just taking an overview. I think the left hand should be, well, really both hands are as legato as possible. Again, without pedal is best to start. So 3-1 connects to 4-1, I guess. You can't connect all this, so it's just a battle of like, where do you want to let go? Yeah, that's not gonna work. Okay, I like what my edition has. 3-1, not written. But then it goes to 4-1, and then you just let go of the bottom voice, switch to 2 on A flat, down to 3, and then you can actually connect everything. So the only break in the entire first measure is the second 8th note, between first and second 8th note of the second beat. Right here. There we go, as smooth as glass. Connectivity wise, I wasn't listening really how I played it, but here we go again, top line. I would say the top line is more important to connect than the bottom, especially since the bottom has repeated notes. So I'm not going to worry about the bottom. Here I'm going to go 3, 2, 3, 5, 3, 4, 5. that one's brutal. Getting D, G with 4/5, it's a big leap. You can't, most people couldn't stretch that at all. Unfortunately, I can. And what I mean by unfortunately is sometimes having the ability to do something doesn't mean you should do it. But just because I can, I'm like, oh, there's this purist in me that's like, I have to play that legato. But it's like not comfortable at all. So I have to put my head in like this small-handed pianist zone of like, if I could only stretch an octave and that wasn't possible, I would just have to have very good pedaling there. Like play it like that with pedal. And see, that's actually fine. But it's like, because I can stretch it, my mind wants to be like, no, you must be accurate. Sometimes that's my downfall. But in any case, there really is no other option, because if you do 3, then 2 3s, tritone is incredibly uncomfortable. So basically, you have to stick with 4. You don't have to make it legato though, as long as the A flat on the bottom connects to the G, like that. I would do 5 4 2, and then honestly 5. Ooh, this is not easy. Such a simple variation in sound, and like, yet it requires work. Well, there's the first measure. So it's a 2-on-3 rhythm. There's the break. Oh, that harmony right there. And then the suspension. There's a lot of stuff going on here. I would say a little crescendo into that D flat. Da, da, da. Strong chord. Resolve under the held C. And then lean into the B. Because you gotta hear the tie. So you can't just throw that away. You gotta and kind of bring that down. Because it's a long note resolving to a short note. So this is died down a bit. Then new strong note. And then you don't want to have a held note and then smack another voice under it. So I would play a loud C there. And then resolve to G under it. There we go. So I'm just going to mark that. Tenuto on the C, decrescendo to the G. And that gives us something like... Da, 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 da. That's like as smooth as you can get it for 2 voices at the same time. And then right hand, you have to build in the lift of the F, which I'm going to associate with the 3rd note of the triplet. So together, I lift the F right here. And there you don't have to lift at all except the top note. So pretty simple. That's as smooth as it gets. And I would just keep that F out of the way. It's the 5th of the chord, making it kind of brassy sounding, so you don't want a lot of volume there. This time, you can place it more because it's an F major chord, so you want the root. And it's the only root, and it's tied, so you actually need quite a bit on that second one. That's too much, but... yeah, there's our change of chord. Yeah, quite a lot of B there. I'm going to put a tenuto on that too. I want to really hear this chromaticism. Da, da, da. So I would lean into that moment. Especially contrasting with the left hand. You get a full diminished 7th chord there. And then resolve. Now the C carries it because it's the suspension. Man, that's beautiful when you slow it down. Then I would basically just pedal super often every note. There's a lot there. I feel like that's probably... I hope... I mean, I haven't looked at it yet. I hope that's one of the hardest variations. There's a lot to figure out there. Let's go variation 3. We'll call it there. So, let's see. Bass note 5. Same thing. And then it's 4 notes. You only have so many options. 5-4 or 5-3 is fine. I like 5-3 personally. Because it's all white keys, so I don't like 4 dipping that low. It's a shorter finger, so it's hard to get that deep into the key with the whole position. 3 naturally bends down. Whereas the next one is easier with 5-4-2-1. 1 for the spacing of B flat to E flat, but also just because it's a black key, so you can stretch it out rather than get lower. Black keys are raised, so you don't have to go as deep into the key. So that gives us 5, 5-3, 5-4, 5 on the bass note again. Right hand, same principle. You can use 1-2-4. In both cases, actually, I wouldn't use, on the B flat second version, I wouldn't do 1-2-3. Even though the 3 is a white key, contrary to what I just said, there's context. So the F major chord before it right here is 1-2-3. So then moving the entirety of 2 and 3 over to B flat and D is like extra work versus just 2 to B flat and 4 is already on D. Like if you skip the E flat and you just do the 2 chords, 1-2-3, 1-2-4 is a much better choice. 5-4, 3-5-4. Bum, bum, bum. My sight singing's getting better. It takes a while to develop that. That one's hard because you don't want to like throw at it, and if you do 5-5, it's kind of hard. I'm almost tempted to go 5-4-3. Actually, yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, I have enough fingers to play 1, 2, 3, 4 on that position. So it also kind of sets up what comes after it. So. A little bit of sight reading. All right, let's call it there for this piece today. And we'll go to the Alcan Sonata Symphony for solo piano. Just 2 bars here, so pretty simple. Basically 5 white keys, 4 black keys when you're doing octaves. The main thing is just to get a lot of exaggeration out of these slurs. And just really sense that strong, weak idea. And then right hand. I'm gonna actually, okay, so 1-2 to begin. 1-2, 1-3-5, because naturally those 2 positions lead into each other. But when it changes in bar 4, you have to go to 1-2-5, and moving 5 in a fast context is hard. So it's better to actually change the finger, literally the 8th note before, to the 4th finger. So like 1-3-5 on the chord, and then 1-2-4 on the chord. Helps you to actually then position your hand to change the harmony. In other words, it works out to 6 of the same for that measure. Measure 3, 5 of that fingering, and then change to 1-2-4 or 1-3-4. You only need to change the top just for 1 note. Now the 3rd finger from A flat drops to G on 2, and the 4th finger on B natural goes to 5th finger on C. So even though it's not connected, it will feel better physically if you actually notice the difference. If you play it in a way that you could do it legato, that tends to be more successful. And while we're at it, there's four bars. Here's where I'd break my rule of 4 black. I would go 4, 4, 5. Because you don't want a gap at that last slur off. So there's where you would do a 4 on the white key. And if you can do 3 E flat. 3 1 octaves are kind of challenging. But if you can, it's worth it. So 5, 3, 4, 5, 5. And there we go. Oh, we have a problem, an overlap. Okay, both hands are playing E flat there. You can't play it in 2 hands. So I would say generally, I would say take it out of the left hand so that you have more freedom of the octave. Like octave, single, octave. But the problem with that is that actually it's hard to hear the continuity of the melody in the line. So I would almost be more in favor of doing it in the left and skipping the right. It also frees your right hand thumb up to position to F, which is in the next chord. So, see, now I wish you could see it. I'm not playing that one, and then that thumb can scoot to F. See, I'm already on F. And we have the same problem where both hands are playing F. Actually, there, I would take it out in the right hand. And then you can just do the second finger on the F natural, which actually helps the continuity of that whole octave passage. Is there a conflict there? Just be aware in a change like that. E flat left hand, E flat right hand. You've got to be able to quickly maneuver those. So what I'm actually doing is circling those 2 moments in the score. Like here, there's the E flat in the left, E flat. And there it is in the right. See? No right hand. No left hand. What I would do is play the whole chord and play everything but that E flat staccato. Like that. And then you really have to think about that. Just literally letting go of everything and switching hands helps your brain to realize how the hands are connected, and it makes it a little easier to play that. I almost want to take out 2 of those bottom notes with 4 and 2 on the very 8th note before the hand resets with the G octave. That's because this position all the way up to the C and E flat is hard to get really quickly. You can do it. It's not impossible. It's fine. But it's not comfortable. So I think it's actually quite a bit better after the 4th note. On the 5th one, you switch to the E flat and G in the left hand, and then thumb in the right hand. And then you go to 2/4. And that just gives you more freedom to actually use one extra note to merge between this and that. Now you have this chord, thumb, and that. With the aid of the left hand. See, left hand not using, left hand involved, left hand not involved. Or of course the octave would come in. That's how you can get a little bit more speed and fluency of direction. Instead of one jerky motion, it's a one fluid motion over 3 notes. So I'll just go that far. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going more in depth than I expected to. I could go a lot faster if I wasn't explaining every detail of how I'm thinking, but actually it helps me to stay engaged, and I think it's a lot more interesting if you're going to watch this. I'd rather you learn something than just see me speed through everything with no logic behind it. So anyway, second movement, F minor. We have kind of a classic two-voice thing where, I mean, it is literally a symphony, so to speak, for solo piano. So you'd expect different instrumental sounds. We have a legato sustained line in the top of the left hand. And there's a good chunk, since it's all kind of one line. It doesn't make sense to break that up. So then imagine a pizzicato under that. I'm doing way faster than it should be just to figure out. Okay, so. This is going to be hard for fingering to get that as smooth as possible. Okay, start 2 so you can connect to D flat with thumb, because you can't go thumb 2 with the octave. It's not, I mean, I can do it, but again, it's one of those things where just because I can doesn't mean I should. It's not comfortable, even though it's tempting. So I'm going to start 5-2. It naturally goes to 3. And then 5-1. Now that's smooth, which puts me right back at 5-2. And then I have to actually switch the 2 to thumb. The reason I don't go... Oh, I could slide. There we go. I forget. It's such a basic rule I just don't even consider sometimes. If you go from black key to white key and they're adjacent, you can always slide and get a very smooth legato. There was no pedal in that. It's just flatten out your thumb so it works like this way, left to right, and then point it down. So it's like da da. You don't even really have to move your hand. It's literally just the position of the thumb. And it's super smooth. And then if there's a little pedal on top of that, then it's perfect. Actually, I didn't even add pedal. Here it is. There it is. And that adds that 10 or 20% extra rich quality. So just slide thumb. And when I write slide, I have like 1 and 1, and then I just write a line between them to remind myself that it's not like a pick up and replay the finger, but it's a one movement kind of slide off technique. And that allows you to actually do 3 in the bass line and not have to use 5 for a jump like that. Here's where it gets challenging. I guess to keep the legato melody, you'd have to go 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And in order to do that, you actually have to change F the second time to the 4th finger. Otherwise, it's 3 on F, 2 on B flat. And that's like, even though you're not playing them at the same time, that's too far of a spread. So 4, 2, 1, 2, 3. And then, of course, as you go under the B flat, you've got to position D flat and A flat. Not comfortable. Again, something like this sounds like the easiest thing in the world, but to play it really well has its challenges. Naturally, you'll be at 3, and then you're left with 1, 2 on top. Connecting to 5 for the legato line. I need to be careful about my dots there. It's so tempting to turn this into triplets and get sluggish with it, but it's actually... It's 16th notes. You gotta hear 4 16ths going dun 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 dun, and then dun 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 dun. You'd be surprised at how many even professionals would play something like this and get kind of, you know, and it sounds like it's falling asleep, as if it wasn't already. You got to keep the excitement going in a slow movement, or it gets abysmal to sit through. That doesn't mean you don't shape. It doesn't mean play robotic, but the rhythm has to be tight for it to be exciting. Okay, so 1 and 2. And then naturally you're just going to connect to thumb, 3, 2, 1, and you're right back at the beginning. Yeah, you have to do 1. Oh, I'm not on that phrase yet. Okay, so F minor, a rare major 3. It's like Lord of the Rings. Instead of normally you'd have like 5 with the E natural, but he chooses to kind of soften the blow of that. 4th finger naturally on. Every measure is the same till the very end, 1, 2, 5, and that covers that movement. Then in terms of just a pedal, I would make sure always to get the pedal after the staccato is lifted. So like if this is my foot, so you don't want to go, because then you get the staccato. Unless you intentionally want that, like instead of a sharp, maybe you want ba, ba, like as if they're sort of pressing into the bow and then releasing quickly. You know? There I did the triplet. Something like that. That's okay too. But I would suggest the slower the tempo, the longer the note. Because if you go really slow and play short, you lose the momentum. If you go very fast for a slow movement and play short, then it's actually okay. It just depends. He says 88. I'm not sure. Let's see if that's Alcan's tempo or if that's editorial. But here's what it is. That's actually quite quick. Yeah, so I would say in that case, you would have to play staccatissimo. I mean, there's not time to give these length at that tempo. Then it sounds like trolls marching or something. I mean, it is... Okay, maybe I'm wrong. It is literally called March Funebre. The funeral march. I would hate for the texture to get so thick and muddy sounding that you lose the melody. No matter what it's called. That melody, whether it's a bassoon or what, it's probably in bassoon range. Yeah, of course it's in bassoon range. I would say woodwind for sure. Not a simple thin string sound. It's a very like puncturing sound to me. Like if oboe could go that low, I'm hearing oboe kind of a thing. You know, very focused sound. And I would worry that playing 4-note chords with length would get in the way of that. So even if you play pianissimo, like it feels stuck to me. So at the same time, he says sostenutissimo. Hard to pronounce this, but in other words, extremely sustained. But it's above the left hand, above the voice that's the melody. Is it the melody he wants? Dramatic? Maybe French horn there, by the way. It's tangent, but is it that, or is it the whole texture that he wants? I would argue only the melody, because again, texture is important, and in an orchestra, a conductor would not tell the entire orchestra to be playing thick and heavy. They would just say, I need to hear you, French horn. So I'm going to mark that too. French horn or bassoon. And I often actually decide in a piece, what do I want this to sound like? Forget the fact that this is a symphony. I would say that just doubles this idea. But even if I'm learning a Mozart sonata or a Prokofiev sonata, I try to imagine, what is this soundscape? You know, is this closer to an oboe or a flute or a violin? But, 10 times more here that we need to imagine such things. And then I'm going to also write melody as king. Because in just about anything, ever, until you hit the 20th century, melody is almost always the most important part. Especially if there is not percussion involved, because the rhythmic drive is sometimes more important than melody. But no matter how beautiful the harmony is, melody has to soar out. It just has to be what's ultimately heard above any other texture. So that's my view for now. Very short chords, and I'm going to make a note of that. And then I'm going to write a question mark by the tempo so that I eventually look at another edition to decide exactly what's going on with that. Again, whether it's Alcan or not. All right, this movement I've heard a lot but never understood. So let's see. Dun, dun, dun. Here's beat 1. Bum, 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 bum. We'll just go to there. It's weird that the accents actually are not always on beat 1. Now that I'm looking at it, it's 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 2. I'm singing only the accents. So if I were to just fake it and not play those, it's. The weird thing about that is you want to kind of sense the 3. Dun, 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 dun. You want to hear that, but the fourth time he takes it away. So to me, that would suggest pulling back and then doing a crescendo. So third measure, dun, dun. Now, subito piano, dun, 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 bum, and imagine, ba, da, 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 but then that's when he does piano. So you don't want to spoil the actual piano, but it doesn't make sense. You can't push unless you pull back. So I'm going to say come down a little bit. Dun, 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 dun. Looks a little hard. I'd have to practice that. I mean, it is Alcan, so. Maybe I would probably save 5/4 for the last of each one of these. Like 5, 5, 4, 5, 5, 4, dun, 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 dun. Maybe in this case D flat, E flat, 5/4. And then just end on 5, because you can't swing down and connect anyway. And then D flat 5/4 again, F G flat 5/4, because it's octaves. So you just want that to feel as smooth as possible, especially considering whatever he's written here. He says 66 for the measure. Done. All right, there was a little break there, and we're back for the last 15 minutes or so. The computer froze. But anyway, where was I? Third movement. Just looking at the rhythmic accents and the fact that they're displaced on the fourth bar. So I was saying that it has to pull back a little bit, but not too much as to spoil measure 5. And yeah. So dun 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 dun. Oh, there it is. Okay, there it is. I think here's what's going on. He doesn't want you to put a big accent on measure 4, because the drama has to go all the way to the end of measure 4. So it's like, now pull back. Dun, 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 dun. So that the surprise of measure 5 really comes down. So another one of my tricks is when you have to do a subito piano from a loud volume, take a little bit of time. I write 2 vertical lines right on the bar line to remind myself, like, I just imagine somebody saying space. You know, like, allow this and this to have space in between it. In other words, don't go, because see, your ears do not have time to adjust to the drop. Instead, whatever it is, maybe that was too much, but it's that idea, because especially in a big hall when you're playing 20, 30 rows back, you need your audience to have plenty of time to react to every dramatic event. And a very loud volume to a very quiet volume is not only dramatic, but also with a hall with reverb, you can't actually hear it. The loud noise will still be ringing a little bit, and it'll cover up the clarity of the quiet after it. So, drop. See, even playing slow, it sounds better. And then, of course, I can't do this fast, but there's even in a small thing with microphones 2 feet by the piano, my guess is it would sound better and clearer to the ear. You don't want to do it so much that you lose the sense of rhythm, but you won't lose it as much as you think due to the dramatic extreme. You could never take that much time if you're at one volume. Like, you can't just stop before a bar line. And you can't do it when you're going quiet to loud. But when you're going loud to quiet, you can, because of the fact that the loud will cover the quiet. And the reason it's the other way, and you don't have to, is because quiet will never cover loud. I could play like this. And I have no trouble hearing the loud after the quiet, because it's louder. But if I go, like, my ears took like half a second to adjust to the new chord. I bet you might not have even noticed it because you're not seeing it. So that, visual sometimes influences how you hear it. But if I go, see that? I put space, and now the new chord was like, whoa, even though I played it at basically the exact same volume. So just a little pianistic trick there. Also, not really sure. I would say probably voice to the top. Maybe it's just about the whole texture. It is Al Can after all. Maybe he wants da 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 dum dum dum. Yeah, so I broaden out. Yeah, maybe just big and beefy, honestly. There's just no harmony here, so I don't see any reason to voice, actually. Something like that. So there's an idea. For now, I'm going to say no voicing. I might change my mind. But this is not Chopin. It's not something where we need the clarity of the top as much. Okay, finally, the last movement. Technically the hardest by far. Honestly, I never like to start a movement nervously. Yeah, I can't read this, but even if I had practiced enough to get that to a fast tempo, I wouldn't. I would play in 2 hands. Until that dun da da da, and then da 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 da. Left hand takes over at that point. Only because when you're nervous, any level of preparation you've done often feels like it's just gone. So anytime you can start something with as much security as possible, I recommend it. Honestly, it just cheat wherever you have to, Yeah, there's no reason. And you're going to be doing this the whole rest of the movement anyway, and there's no way to get out of it. So it's not like anyone will doubt your technical ability. It's just an issue of like, why take a risk if you don't have to? That is something I said in the first video. So I would say divisi, which just means to divide the part up between the hands. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to go 3-1, 5-2, 5-1, 5-1, 5-1. So there's 5-1 3 times in a row at the end. And then C flat is going to be all left hand at that point. Just 2, 3 for the fast notes on the right hand. And that should handle it. 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5. Get as many in one position as you can without changing fingers. Or I mean without changing, without keeping the same finger on changing notes. And then cross over to 4, 5. So 3, 4, 5, 4, 5. And then like that. And then I wouldn't do 4, 4, 4. Even though there's 3 black keys, don't do 3 fourth fingers. That's hard. So when there's a case of lots of black keys in a row, I save the 4th finger for usually just the last one. So in this case, starting on C flat, 5, 5, 5. Only for when G flat comes in. To get down to F. And then 4 to get down to D natural. There's the first several measures. So we get switch over. And for that matter, when you go 1, 4, 1, 5, the left hand should go 5, 2, 5, 1, so that there's this continuity of the A flat being 2, 4, and then 1, 5. In other words, they're moving together. A group of 3, and then a group of 2. To there, and then the right hand joins. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. And there it is, now without breaks. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. The counterpoint is actually really cool in this. Like, very much like Mendelssohn, it reminds me. Anyway, moving on. Edward Mcdowell, Second Piano Concerto, D minor. Very much a mockery of Rock 3 in a way. I mean, it's not cheesy, but it's just so obviously D minor, trying to be this big grandiose thing. It's hard to take it seriously, but it's not poorly written. So I'm not going to blast my neighbors out right now, but when I want a full sonority, just the biggest sound you could possibly make, not only the 3rd finger for the middle of the hand with the most power, but I clump thumb with it, so it's almost like a bird beak kind of a thing, and I just drop. Make sure you're relaxed. You never want to just jam, but the trick is throw your arm at it and like create a circle all in one gesture, and that'll create relaxation so you don't get tension and harshness behind the sound. But like I'll do it right from the key surface. That's nice and round versus if I lock up. I mean, my piano's pretty darn nice. So even there, it's not terrible. But I guarantee if the lid was up and you were right in the room, you'd hear a very harsh sound comparatively to kind of creating these bowed wrist motions. It gets you a much bigger quality. So I would say 3 with 1 clump or 3 with 2 clump. You can also do that, like 2 fingers. It just gets you more arm weight flowing into the pressure. In other words, it's like a stronger conduit. Imagine a cable with 3 prongs instead of 1. It can carry more electricity. It's the same thing here. You get a much bigger sound with more fingers. That's why octaves, other than the fact that they're 2 notes, they sound more powerful than single notes. If you were to just mash a thumb, you could not get nearly the power. And it's partly, yes, because of the doubling of the texture, but partly it's because you have the weight of the arm distributed into 2 parts. So even the individuality of the thumb is louder than you could get on its own. So you just got more balance and support. So creating the same idea, like playing 2 fingers on 1 finger or 1 note, creates an octave-like sound if I were to just do that, single notes on each hand. I'm just making that up. But, you know, it gets a much sturdier sound than if you just went... I can kind of force it, but it doesn't sound as round or as full. So, anyway, little tangent there. It's important on repeated chords to start with like to change your wrist angle, da-da, rather than like go down, down. You never want that. You'll lock up. See how much this is tightening, and like this is clamping and everything. Instead, go down and up, or backwards, forwards, and like that makes you you stay in motion, so it avoids your ability to stay tight, and which takes out the tension. It also just gives you more power, because naturally you will accelerate into the second one. And let's see, it's going to be 2 5 1 2, same thing. And then you're going to have 5 going to 4, back to 5, and exactly how we started. So just remember, most of that's in the motion. Now, da-da-dum. Those 3 chords, kind of like the Braum's Handel at the beginning. Connect what you can, lift what you can't, and build that into the rhythmic design. I won't go through the details, but it's the same idea. Now I'm going to switch to 1-3-5 for that last one for 2 reasons. 1, it fits the shape of the chord better, but 2, changing the A second finger to third forces you to take a little bit of time, which builds into the drama. And yeah, there's a diminuendo there, but it's fortissimo, largamente, largamente, tenuto. So sustained, super loud, and large. I mean, how much more grandiose can you get? I think the tailoring is more just finish the phrase. It doesn't mean you come down. Don't lose the heat of the drama. Instead, sometimes those markings are the composer's way of saying there's the end of the unit, there's the end of the thought. It doesn't necessarily mean da da dum ba bum that we're killing the mood. So just important to remember. D minor 7, 5 4 2 1, 5 4 2 1. Same idea on all of those. And then start backwards and low, forwards and high through the notes of the arpeggio. D, F, A, C chord. And that again helps the rearticulation of C to C from the end of the arpeggio to the beginning of the chord. I'm just gonna mark that for me. Bum, bum. That would go 4 and then 5 3 2 1. Again, wait for it. It's 16th note. What even tempo is this? Let's see. Wait, dum. This is a weird rhythm. The hands don't seem to match because we have a dotted quarter. Oh. Quarter is on the offbeat of 2. So 1, 2, 3. What time signature? Oh, it's 6/8. Okay. I was trying to count it in 4 and it just didn't even pay attention. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Probably not even that fast. I would say at least that. Dun, dun. The very slowest you can possibly get away with is. So I would scoop in with this chord so you give your fingers a chance to like kind of work around the black keys and reset the positioning. Because if you just go down, down, again, you're going to force. If you go out and in, da-da, your fingers can like remold from white keys to black keys and kind of, it just feels a lot more comfortable. So I'm going to say backwards, forwards. All I do is write arrows to show the motion my wrists are making. There's that repeated note 5 to 1 on the arpeggios while the left hand is doing C, which I like. This is cool. Because at this moment you have C and D, this clash. My recommendation would be bring out the C, because that's the moment of tension. You want to hear that more than the D. So voice the left hand. C, D, C, D, C, E. Slowly. It's 4 notes to the 8th, yeah. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Something along these lines. There's actually there's 3 measures, so we'll call that there. I want to actually keep going. I love this piece. I think it is incredibly underplayed. There are some good recordings of it, but not nearly enough variety. I have no idea why Tchaikovsky gets played, 5 times a season by 18 different people, and this maybe twice a year across the globe. I mean, not literally, but it's often ignored. So we're at about the hour mark. I think this is good. I'm very eager to start the Grieg Sonata, actually, and all the rep I've chosen. It's gonna be 5-6 days at least to get through everything, even one pass. I'm most likely gonna edit this, but let's just do a few minutes of Grieg first movement and call it a day. So it's Alberti bass intense. You have basically no option due to how far it's spread out. 5-1-2-1, or 5-1-3-1. Changes to C in measure 3. C sharp, measure 4. Yeah. And then resolves. Yeah, there's nothing to the left hand, really. My edition says 5-2-1-4-3-2-1-2-3-2. On a slur, I like to have thumb. Da, da. So I would go 2-1, and then maybe cross over to 2 or 3. Because I just get a little bit more of that arm weight stress. I'm gonna say 1 or 3. 3 is definitely a possibility, but yeah. So then, I think this is mainly just about a nice full legato touch. Very much a slur off, and then I'm gonna crescendo this. Start a little light. Hear the bloom of that because it's the longer note, so stress, and then big crescendo to the slur. Reset, and then I would slightly linger here to establish the fact that the melody isn't dum dee dum dum dum, but give yourself time to hear dum 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 dum. Who knows? It's like 7 ledger lines. I'd have to look at that. After about 5, sometimes 6, I get lost. Anyway, yeah. So just a basic melodic scheme, and then pedal basically by the harmony. So. It's A. If it's that high, sometimes I just write a reminder note, so I don't have to annoyingly read it every time. let's just go that far. I might as well. This is the last piece of the day, so 2, 3, 2. I like the changing fingers when the bass line's changing. It's better than using the same finger to work extra hard. Same thing. Just a simple half diminished chord. 5, 3, 2, 1. Simple. Same thing for both of those. Same fingering, just changing harmony. E minor 6, 4. 5, 3, 2, 1 once again. Yeah, the fingering doesn't change. And then we kind of have a dramatic. And it gets not impossible, just I have to work it out. So I already said linger. Okay, I just misjudged how far the thumb moves. So short, I'll just write close. Then I would, after I linger, I would get moving right away. You don't want to belabor it like never do that. Like if you're gonna take a moment, learn to move out of it. And then drama. I always say don't rush a rest, especially when it's both hands. You know, technically it's just, but that's not very exciting, right? So like, you know, each one more exciting and filled than the last. So I'm just gonna write spacing here. And then there, he writes crescendo, which I agree. It's good. Naturally, it's the chord progression is growing to there. So 3 levels of sound, which means you really need to come down. Now, way down. See, and then shock, you know, by spacing. I delay it 10-20%, and that creates a lot of the shock value. Yeah, I think that basically. Oh, I see. They give a different fingering. 4, 2, 1, 2, 3. Just sort of your basic conservatory, you know, arpeggio. It doesn't have the E at the end, but I was doing 1, 4, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 4, 1, 5. But their fingering is better. 4, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 5. Because then the last note, whenever you have like a big snap off, it's better to get as many notes in the hand as possible leading up to the last note, because you get the most power. Even if you don't hold them, you just get the most support of the hand than just having 2 notes at the very end. So here we go. Of course, the whole thing's quite a bit faster than I was playing it, so. Something like that. Too much spacing at the end there, but that's the idea, and then very full. We will continue in the next video with the slow movement of this and keep going on with the next pieces. So thank you for joining me, and hopefully you learned something, and that this tutorial, if you'd call it that, was beneficial for you. Let me know if you have any feedback, and looking forward to getting into the future parts. Thanks. Bye.